From Comic-Cons to Star Wars and superhero movies, the world has become obsessed with all things geek. To learn more about the culture and why we've become obsessed with it, we turn to cultural anthropologist Dr. Stanford Carpenter. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I feel like 3 decades ago, we would have not liked to be called a geek. Now everyone loves it.
Oh, yes, definitely. Like, I remember when I used to travel on the plane, I'd have a comic with me.
Yeah.
People look at me strange. Now they're like, oh, that's cool. Tell me about it.
Why the shift do you feel like that people are so now accepting of that? I told my 9-year-old geeks around the world.
Well, I think it's generational. I mean, if you think about it, it's like you've got baby boomers who grew up on comics, and then Generation X comes along, and it's something that they started to share with their parents. And even now that you've got the next generation, like I'm watching the CW shows with my daughter. I'm reading comics with my daughter.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the CW shows, I love the fact that they are like Batwoman. They're tackling tough issues within the comic world.
Well, it's interesting because comics are primed for that. Comics are kind of like a modern mythology, right? You know, these unfolding, never-ending stories. And identity, for example, is incredibly fluid in comics. You've got secret identities. You've got shape changers. So it's kind of a perfect platform to start to feel those things out. Even if we didn't do that in the past, we're able to do that now.
Well, and we're getting now, we've seen it with the Batwoman series, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which we've got airing this week too. We're seeing these crossover events, so everybody who loved the comics are now getting to see all of their favorites together. And I know they did it in the books, but to be able to see it come to life on the screen is just amazing.
Well, that's what's amazing about Crisis. I mean, it started in the comics as a way to address continuity problems. I mean, they had so many stories over so long, and they kept saying, oh, well, this happened on Earth 2, this happened on Earth 38, this happened on Earth 5. And then they started having people or characters from different Earths interact, and the fans were like, this is really confusing, what's going on? And so they just came up with a story to explain it away, which was we have this being that's going to destroy all these Earths, and they destroyed most of the Earth and knitted it back together into one continuity, and it worked, and now we're seeing it happen on the CW. I mean, so for a comic fan, what they're doing here is really amazing, because what would normally just be an Easter egg it's almost more than that to a fan, because they're like, oh my God, that's Tim Burton's Batman's Earth that they just destroyed.
Well, and are you a fan of the Avengers movies?
Yes.
I love the way they've weaved the individual stories, not even in chronological order, into the big full movie.
Yes, yes. I mean, and that's the other thing that's interesting about comics as a medium, where you have these shared universes, right? You have these individual stories. So when they come together, you may not have seen all of the individual stories, but you have your person to root for, and it actually gives you a different type of investment in the story.
Now, I'm a big fan of Comic-Con. I've taken my son, and they are just booming. Every city that has one, I know you like the one in San Diego quite a bit.
Yes.
They are massive. I mean, the lines are insane.
Yes, and we've also got some interesting different types of comic conventions going on here. Like we've got, from big to small. So we've got like C2E2, which is coming up in a couple weeks, and then we've got Pocket Con, which is a small Comic Con for young girls and boys of color at the Chicago Cultural Center, right? So it's like, so there is. I think of it this way. There's a Comic Con for everyone.
Yeah.
And some are more general, some are more specific, but it's an amazing culture to participate in.
I know you mentioned you talked to your daughter, talking about CW shows and some of the different issues. Do you think that comics are letting kids who might feel a little bit more awkward feel included nowadays? Oh,
definitely, definitely. I mean, because that's one of the main themes in comics, right? I mean, if you start looking at what happens, like even with Supergirl, right? When she's in her secret identity, and she, as Cara Danvers, it's like she's awkward. She can't get to. She's having trouble getting to work on time, right?
Yeah.
It's all of those little things. She's worried about her love life. But you even go over to Arrow, which is he's definitely he's the guy that your parents don't have to warn you about. He's so bad, right?
Right.
When he first comes, when we first meet him, and it's all about him redeeming himself. But again, it's like they've taken the secret identities take different types of people, and allow them to like be flawed, and then they become heroes. So when they fight, it's not that we're rooting for Supergirl. We're rooting for Kara.
Yeah, a person who has problems and issues, but they still can overcome and be good people.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. We could go on forever. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Yes, I could. For more information on comics culture and the lives of comic creators, check out Stanford Carpenter's podcast titled Brother, Story, and the Correspondent. And you can get your superhero fix in tonight with parts 4 and 5 of Crisis on Infinite Earths. It all starts at 7 p.m. on CW26.